Welcome to Do the Damn Show. I'm your host, the tatted, the fatted, the one and only Casey Hughes. And with me in the studio, as always, co-host and producer,
Super Farron.
Super Farron.
Although I would love, this is the only time I can say I'd love to be OTF because of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And we have John Riendeau.
Hey, how you doing?
John, welcome.
Thanks.
I'm glad
Welcome,
you're here, dude.
John. Yes.
John
we're
is
very glad you're here.
If you're just listening on this, you have to take our word for it. He's a fellow tattoo person.
You want to see the video.
And still take on no more care. With the next bed that I take, will feel it there. Could you lend your hand for me? Take all my wants and not my needs. I will lay my riches up on the other side. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when it's been you? Hey, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
And we're back.
We're back. We were back a little early, actually.
Hey, that's better than late.
It is actually, for real.
Yeah.
You know, no awkward silence.
No, yeah. What did you say? So we're back, and how was your week this week?
Man, it was a really good week. I wish I could stop doing that, though. Every single
having a
time
great
you ask
week?
me. No,
Damn you for having a good week all the time.
No, every time you ask me, I've noticed, you know, I've been on like the last, 12, 13 episodes, and you always say, how's your week? And I go, man, and then whatever. Wish I could stop doing that.
That's your call sign, dude.
I guess
it's
so.
like my and.
But either way, it was a great week. Great week. Can't complain about nothing, man.
Yep. John, how was your week?
Rough, dude.
Rough?
Oh.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Half my crew have positive COVID tests that we had to shut down last week, and then everybody's like canceling this week. They're either sick or don't have money, you know.
So just to paint the picture, why that's so important is you own and operate a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
This is not like he owns a fast food joint.
Right.
You know, that's human on human contact.
Right.
Yeah.
In the rawest of forms.
Yeah, thankfully, Kelsey and I, we tested negative, but we still shut down for a day, and just because it seemed like everybody was running a day behind each other on their positive tests and feeling bad. And,
Right.
So we just shut down Saturday, and then we're closed Sunday and Monday, so that gave us a few days.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and we just opened back up Wednesday because, you know, we were still fine, and everybody's got that. I guess it's 5 days. I don't know. Like, the rules changed so
Isn't that
much,
crazy how we
you know?
went from 20 days?
Yeah.
to now it's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Go back home.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah, whatever.
Bree, she comes back tomorrow, so she's been out all week. So then we'll be back to a full crew. Well, almost full crew. One of my artists has been out on maternity leave since July. She'll come back in a week, so almost a full crew.
Dude, I got to tell you, you have a very talented crew.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
No.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. When I opened that shop, the goal was that it didn't matter whose seat you came in there, you was going to get a good tattoo and a good experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, like at my shop, I have a rule that if you get 3 touch-ups in a year because it's your fault, you don't work for me anymore. Like, people want this shit done right the first time.
Right.
It's expensive. It hurts. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do it more than once.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't think about how, like, the emotional investment that comes with a tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
There are freaks like us who just get it for whatever, you know, just tattoos on tattoos. But to a lot of people, it's their first time. It means something, and that's going to be commemorative of something in their life.
Well, you know, you say that, but even though I've got this many, every single one I have means something.
Oh,
like,
God,
I never
wish I
got
could say
one.
that.
I never got one that was just to get one that wasn't meaningful.
I wish I could say that.
Yeah.
I grew up in the, hey, let's just go do it.
Yeah, that was me.
So I have the greatest tattoo. John did it. He put it on here for me. I actually got to design it, and I've never talked about it on the show. And I told him, I just thought about this when we wrapped up the show before.
Yeah.
When we walked out, I thought about this, but it's the evil chili dog.
That is the best. That is the best.
So we got hot dogs through and through.
We got our hot dog theme. That one just happens out chili.
It's chili.
That is the best.
So
we need to get the show. I think the show has been on long enough now. It'd be safe to get a tattoo of the show
I think so.
insignia.
I think so.
We need to do that.
Like, tattooing really saved my life, and so I take it very serious.
Yeah.
That's okay. So you just said something. That's what I want to hear. You made that statement. Tattooing saved your life.
Oh, absolutely. I've had a real rough life, dude. It was one of those things where I found something I could put focus into,
Sure.
and that's what I did. And it's pretty much taken me to places that I never would have been. I provide for my kids 100 times better than I was provided for. Mm-hmm. So I try to give back whenever I can in any little way I can to the industry or the craft.
Right.
And I'm a big tattoo nerd, so I study the history of it and try to learn as much as possible about it. And that's why my shop runs the way it's ran, because people I try to teach the tattoo or the people that work for me, I try to instill a pride of what you do and where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I told you this outside, like you have one of the coolest shops. The reason I say that is because it's traditional. There's a very traditional vibe walking in there. And there's a lot of oddities and obscurities, things too, which I add a certain element to it, especially for Hayden. Like she absolutely fell in love with some of that stuff that's in there. Especially one of the little trinket things that you had shown me. I think it was in the Pearson room, something that you had made.
Yeah.
Or was working on, and she done that. But you can, I'm not trying to be corny or whatever, but you can almost feel that, like when you come in, like the traditional stuff. Like the basis of it. I'm big on feeling, dude, and you can kind of tell that. I'm sure it's like any business. You have squabbles, you have disconnects and things, but the overall vibe of that shop promotes what tattooing should be.
That's kind of where I want it to be, and I'm not one to say what tattoo should be or shouldn't be. I just tattoo,
Yeah.
It's like every tattoo is going to mean something different to everybody else. I go more along the lines of where tattooing came from and the respect, because it was built on respect, like the apprentice mentor thing.
Yeah.
And learning about, who, we stand on the shoulders of giants when it comes to
Right.
tattooing. Sailor Jerry, for instance, he's probably the most popular, in everyday people.
Yeah.
That wasn't even his name, man. Back then, you used to have to take what's called a needle name just to protect your family's reputation, because you didn't want you had kids and they found out, their dad was a tattoo artist, their mom was a tattoo artist or something. They were ridiculed and shunned. It was like,
Did not know that.
yeah. And so a lot of tattoo artists back then, when you see the names nowadays, that wasn't their real name. It was just a moniker, and they called it a needle name, and that was basically so they could make a living and also protect their family.
Wow.
That's awesome. I don't know much about hardly any other tattoo history, but I love Sailor Jerry, and I've read a book and seen a documentary. And
Yeah.
So if you're good with talking about it, John, I'm really interested in how the tattooing saved your life. Like some of the, what got you to that point.
I did my first tattoo actually when I was 13, and I'm 45, so I grew up as a teenager, kind of late 80s, early 90s, and you didn't see a tattoo shop everywhere.
Right.
Back then. I stayed in San Diego for a long time, living with my grandmother. I kind of had a dysfunctional family, and I ran away from home a lot. Called my grandmother and said, hey, I'm either going to come live with you or I'm going to be a street kid. Ended up in California. And so while I was out there, you've seen these people with tattoos, and that's what I tell my crew at the shop. Like, as a kid, my mom was tattooed, my dad was a Hell's Angel, he was tattooed. Even as a small kid, you would see these tattoos, but you didn't see the shops. There
Right.
wasn't television shows, the internet wasn't a thing,
Yeah.
so. For me, looking at a tattoo as a kid back then, it was like a mystical thing. It was like, how the fuck do these get these tattoos? You know what I mean?
Where did it come from?
yeah.
And I cuss a lot, and I know this is like
That's
a
all right.
No, I do too. Don't worry about it.
We do too. We earned. I say we. The truth is, it's really Casey.
Casey
But
does.
we earned our E. Yeah, we earned our E rating.
Okay,
We
cool.
rock a E. We rock a E on the
right.
channels, man.
Yeah, we all we ask is that you just be yourself, man.
Okay.
That's it.
Y'all are fucked. So basically, man, that's how I grew up seeing tattoos. And again, being a kid of the 80s and the early 90s, pop culture and stuff, you know, all my uncles and stuff, and my dad was Marines and sailors.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they had tattoos. My best friend was this Chicano kid, and, you know, all his family, you know, the males anyway, they rocked the big dickies and the hairnets back then. You know,
Yeah.
And they were tattooed up. You know, like I said, my dad was a biker, tattooed up. And so this is kid logic. You know, I was 13, the youngest one of us was 8, and there was like 5 of us. And we got to talking about them, and it was like, you just got to be a fucking badass. You know, and they give it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
It's like standard issue.
pretty much.
It's like Girl Scout badges.
So that's how I looked at tattooing, and that's the only reason I wanted one, because I wanted to be a fucking badass. And
Yeah.
so we talked to my friend's uncle, who had did some time in prison, another Cholo guy, and we had a network of homeless people, and what we would do is we'd save up our money, and we would give them money and say, hey, if you will buy us a 40, we'll buy you one. And not once were we ever ripped off. They would go to the liquor store
Yes, sir.
and bring us a 40, and we would get drunk as shit.
Yep.
So what we did is we got up some 40s and we took it to his uncle like a tribute, and he showed us how to make prison-style tattoo equipment. You know, he broke down a Sony Walkman cassette player, and
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
he made it, and we went to a back alley, and we were tattooing on a couch that homeless people would shit and piss and never slept on, and didn't know we needed
Real
to change the
sanitary.
needle. No.
Real sanitary.
I remember when I started doing this stuff for real.
But now we're shut down for COVID.
Yeah, I think I'm immune. But yeah, I remember, you know, when I was learning the bloodborne pathogens part of getting a license to tattoo professionally, just immediately flashing back on that moment and be like, fuck, how am I not dead?
Yeah.
You know? But that's how we got our start. And then I gave my mom a shot at being a mom and came back to Alabama. Still didn't even know there was such thing as a tattoo shop at this point, you know.
Was it illegal in Alabama at that time?
I don't know.
I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like when I was growing up, because I was born and raised here, and I feel like it was illegal.
I know it wasn't widely accepted. I know that.
Yeah.
Because that's been in the last.
Well, I lived in
20
Oklahoma
years.
for a short period of time when I was in the Army, and that was like 25 years ago. And at that time, it was illegal where I lived in Oklahoma. I feel like it was in Alabama
It
when I was
probably
growing
would
up.
be.
I could be wrong, though.
It's possible. I mean, it was illegal in New York City up until like 96.
Wow.
Wow, man.
Yeah, I moved here and, you know, I tattooed a few people with bullshit equipment. Still a kid. And then, you know, you get a job and you go through and do all that stuff. And I got in a lot of trouble while I was here. Ended up being incarcerated off and on in juvenile detention and stuff like that. So it got to the point, by the time I was 16, I'd been emancipated as an adult. So at 16 years old, I was actually sitting in Coleman County Jail, like the old jail in the bullpen with grown-ass men. So,
Wow.
but it was one of those things like, you know, at 15, 16 years old, I didn't care if he was a grown man. You know, I'd talk to you like you were nothing.
Yeah.
And fight you if you wanted to fight. I fought grown men when I was a kid, you know. And I'm not saying that to brag about it. It's pretty shitty.
Sure,
I was a piece
sure.
of shit, you know. But,
Yeah. Well, too, but you were a product of what you came from.
Yeah.
well, I was extremely angry as a kid.
Yeah.
So, like, that was my thing. I loved to fight more than anything. And it didn't matter if I won or lost as long as I'd fight.
Just get it out.
Yeah. And then when I moved to Alabama, I mean, it was a lot of, I mean, it's the good old boys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here I am, you know, I don't get into sports, you know. I wanted to be a comic book illustrator as a kid. I skateboarded, I liked metal, you know, there's the height of the satanic panic thing going on. So, so it was just one of those things, man, when country boys would come up and I was a kid they thought they was going to pick on, and I'd whoop that ass.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even who I really was deep down, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
what happened is, you know, you come in from someplace like Southern California to Coleman,
Man, I can't imagine
You're
two
talking about
different
culture
places.
shock.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, well, I'd been here off and on. You know, I've lived in East St. Louis and the projects. I've lived all over, man. But it was one of those. It was one of those things when you get here. It's all that you're. First of all, you're the new guy in school, so you're going to get the chicks' attention, and then you're from Southern California.
Yeah.
And
You're like the fucking unicorn, John.
bro,
Yeah.
The rarity.
well, yeah, you were talking about the height of like '90s gangster rap, where everything was
Yeah.
West Coast, and everybody just thought I was whatever.
Yeah.
And so when we'd go fighting, you know, and I'd win, it just led to that reputation. You know, I had that reputation in my school that you were the guy. I was the guy that nobody fucked with.
Yeah.
For one, I could fight real well. Two, I wasn't scared to fight. How many ever you guys were there? And three, I was not humble. So if you whooped my ass, I thought it was a fluke. And we were going to fight again.
Just to prove.
Yeah.
And if you whooped my ass twice, I knew you were just a better fighter than me. So the third time, I'm going to sneak you.
Right.
But I'm not going to take an ass whooping.
Yeah.
You know? And so what happens with that is you attract the attention of more girls.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of nice, you know. And
Yeah.
so this reputation that I was upholding that wasn't even me before long, it just became me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Isn't that crazy how that happens, man?
Fuck, dude. Hindsight, really fucked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so like I said, ended up in a county jail at 16, got out, and then when I was 18, I ended up going to the penitentiary, and I stayed there until I was 26 years old.
Was that here in Alabama?
Yeah, that was here in Alabama. And the craziest thing was the stuff I went to prison for, I did not do. And this is my first time actually publicly talking about it. Outside of back then, I talked to the crew today. It's like, man, I think they want me to tell my story. I don't know what. They worked for me for 3 years before they even knew.
Wow.
Everybody that talks to me now and that I know, and I tell them, they can't believe it. They genuinely think I'm a nice dude. And I think my biggest fear was, what if people knew how I used to be?
Yeah. Absolutely. Dude, I'm with you.
They're going to think I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
So I never talked about it, man. But I got a 90-year sentence for 7 nonviolent first-time property crimes. So that will tell you the extent of how bad I was as a kid and the reputation and the example they wanted to make. I got 2 20-year sentences and 5 10-year terms. And they gave me the maximum they could on each case and ran it consecutively. So,
Wow.
so I wasn't even supposed to get out of prison for 10 years. And I tattooed while I was there. You know, did what I knew how to do.
Yeah.
Still never even heard of a tattoo shop. Didn't know it was a damn thing at all.
Oh, wow.
And so, excuse me, so I get in there and I get out early, just by luck, I guess. A radio talk show host in Montgomery, who's passed away now, was doing a year-long expose on the abuse of the criminal justice system in Alabama. And my case came up because it was so excessive.
Wow.
Excuse me, I thought I was going to burp. But
These mics are good for that, too, man.
Yeah,
You get
boy.
some good ones.
They'll
Yeah.
pick up everything.
so I caught a little notoriety there, and the next thing I know, a state senator is stepping down on the parole board because that's who they answer to, state legislator, and pretty much said, you got to let him go. And I got early parole.
Wow.
And they only did that because, you know, the court has certain rules, and a lot of people don't realize this. The court has certain rules that, as long as they follow these rules, your case will not get overturned.
Yeah.
It can be, you know, you can be as innocent as possible.
Yeah.
You know, as you want to be. And as long as the court follows those rules and says there's nothing you can do about it. And I remember doing all these appeals and stuff, and the Supreme Court of Alabama issued an opinion in my case, and I remember crying in prison. It was one of the only times I really did. Was they came back and their opinion was basically word for word. It said the court marvels at a conviction on such flimsy proof, but it's not our job to weigh the evidence, but whether or not the court followed procedures, and then they did.
Oh,
Like,
jeez,
bro,
man.
you're telling me because they played by the rules,
Wow.
there's nothing I can do. And so, politics are crooked.
Right.
I mean, it was a state senator.
And everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's how I got out.
That is
If
so
you want me to
true.
be honest.
Wow.
The state legislators put pressure on the parole board. So when I got out, I was 18 when I went in, 26 when I came out. So I'm like, grew up in there. I didn't have any skill. I didn't know how to work on a car. I knew a very little carpentry. I got some minor carpentry skills. I didn't know shit, but I knew that I wanted to be an artist as a kid, and I knew that there was that. I went to work in factories, and
It never fits, man.
construction.
Like when you're that right brain person, that artistic side, that illustrative side, and you mix that with a colorful life, those factory stuff, it never sticks. And the people that it does stick with, I look at them and they're so miserable, man.
Yeah,
Like they're just miserable, and it's because they can't get out.
right.
They can't get what they're good at.
That reminds me of Jamie Johnson and the Lonesome Song album, and he's got a line in one of the songs about that, like the day job and the hammer and the nail.
Yeah, just couldn't break out with a hammer and a nail.
Yeah, he couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I was fine. I was making money. It's the most money I'd ever made. But fuck, I was a kid. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
that $8 an hour to work at a cultured marble shop in downtown Birmingham looked great. You know what I mean? But before I got that job, I was doing odd jobs with this guy that I met on this like day labor program or something, and he was trying to help out ex-cons that was getting out and stuff. And so I remember he was a painter, and I was pressure washing this building on the west side of Birmingham. This is a great story. And I'm pressure washing it, and I've probably been out of prison literally less than a month. And I'm pressure washing it, and I'm taking a break to smoke a cigarette. And this dude comes up and pulls a gun on me because it's like in the back alleyway. He's trying to rob me, and I didn't have a dime on me, dude. Not a dime. And again, I don't know if it was just the way I was brought up and how I was, but I just looked at him calmly. I'm like, dude, you're just practicing, man. I don't have shit. I just got out of prison. He looked at me, and he was like, for real? I'm like, yeah, man, I've been out like 3 weeks. And he puts his gun up, and he just puts his head down, shakes his head, asks me for a cigarette, and he's like, damn, homie, welcome home. And
That's one of the best stories I've heard in my life.
goes on about his day, dude. But yeah.
I'll never just practicing.
Yeah,
That's the
He's
best.
just practicing, bro. Got nothing.
All you're going to get is you catch a charge if you shoot me. That's all you're going to get out of this transaction, buddy.
But yeah, I did that for a while, and then drove a forklift and worked in warehouses and stuff, and this guy knew, was like, hey man, I'm going to go get a tattoo. And I hadn't tattooed since getting out. You know what I mean? You want to go with me? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll go with you. And so I thought we was going to somebody's fucking house, and we roll up, and it's literally says tattoos on the side of a building.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
It's real.
And I get out and I'm looking at this place, and I remember kind of feeling heartbroken. And I was like, "Fuck, man! You mean anybody can get these? You know what I mean? Like you don't have to earn them."
Yeah. Wow.
So we go in there, and dude gets his tattoo, and there's one of them I had done on him, and the guys were like, "Man, well, where do you work?" Fuck, bro! I didn't even know there was such thing as a tattoo shop.
Kilby. That's where I work.
Yeah.
And just kind of basically told him a watered down version of the story I just told you, and The dude tried to get me an apprentice right then, and I remember just shutting him down. Like, man, I can't make no fucking money doing this.
Yeah.
And for 2 years, he pursued me.
Oh, wow.
And then I was doing road construction at the time. And in the winter months, we would get laid off. Because apparently in Alabama, the state won't allow you to lay asphalt because it cools down too fast.
Yeah.
And the company would, they would handle all the unemployment checks and stuff for you. So I was getting like $200 a week or whatnot. So I was like, man, I want to try this tattoo thing. So I went down there and I went and talked to him. And the same dude that pursued me was like, I don't got time to fuck with you for real. So here's you some tattoo equipment. And here's a fake portfolio, because we didn't have smartphones back then.
Right.
So you had a portfolio full of like
Yeah.
pictures that you went and got developed. He's like, here's some shitty work. Take it together. Tell them that you've been tattooing for a year, and they will hire you. And so that's exactly what I did. And I tattooed. My first professional job as a tattooer was on the west side of Birmingham, over there by Legion Field.
Wow.
Yeah. And, I mean, that dude gave me my first job. I've seen so much shit in and out of that shop. I've seen more cocaine being sold out of that shop than
Oh,
I've ever
sure,
seen
yeah,
in my
yeah.
life. And I think he's dead now, and that shop's no longer around, so it doesn't matter if I talk about it or not.
Right.
I mean, I didn't mean to laugh, but
But that's how I got my start, man. And then I just progressed up to a little better shop that was still bad.
Yeah.
But did that. I was married then, and then what I didn't know about her was that she had an addiction. Sorry, Mayor Residian. She had an addiction, and I was working third shift, driving the forklift, and that's when she would do her thing. And it just got so out of control that with the pills and stuff that she couldn't just do it within those hours. And then once I found out about it, she just didn't care and just kept going. And she eventually overdosed and passed away.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. And so I just kind of quit my forklift job, basically, and went and lived in my car. I drove a 94 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, and drove it to Birmingham, and was either like, I'm going to be successful at this, or I'm just going to be a bum. And I lived in my car for almost a year.
Hey, Cadillac's a huge car till you live in it.
Well, it's still
Yeah, until you live in it, yeah.
It's still the most comfortable car I've ever driven. But I lived in that thing, and I had friends that would let me come over and wash my clothes, and if I had a good night of tattooing or whatever, I would get a room. But I did that for about 9-10 months, and then moved to Gulf Shores, started tattooing down there, and then made a ton of money there. It was the most money I've ever made tattooing. Even as a shop owner, I made more money on the Gulf Coast than I do as a shop owner.
Tourism.
Yeah, I made about $60,000 in 3 months, my cut, and you split 50-50 with the shop.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's not a bad pull.
well, I mean, that's also working from noon till 3 o'clock in the morning.
And I
7
can
days a
only
week.
imagine, John, it has to be doing the most mundane bullshit tattoos.
Yeah.
Hey, that was little souvenir tattoos, is what we called them. They're, they're probably $50 size.
Yeah.
A lot of shells.
Seashells, dolphins, waves.
So here's a fun fact. My very first tattoo was almost 14 years old. My mom was going to sign for me. We were at the beach. I don't remember if it was Destin or Gulf Shores, but it was one of the two. And it was a tribal band with a dolphin in the middle of it, and it had a diamond for an eye. And I remember the guy looking at me going, "You sure that's what you want?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, dude, that's what I want." And he looks at my mom, and she goes, "That's what he wants." He's like, "I mean, if he wants to do it, I'll do it for him."
Right.
And he threw some off the wall price out. The truth is, the guy didn't want to do it, But my mom was still going to pay it, and then he started talking about, now, like the pain and going through the process. And I know now, I look back and realize what he was doing, but there at the counter, dude, he come out with a set of needles, and he whipped open a needle right there at the counter, and he was like, and this is what, yada, yada, yada. And he was psyching me out. That's what he did. So whoever you are, I don't know if you remember that. Thank you for talking me out of that shitty tribal band tattoo with a dolphin in the middle of it.
Makes me kind of want to go get one of those now, though. Apparently, based on the story you told, some of the tattoos that you did when you were, in prison were like really good art. You're an artist, and that guy saw something you did, and he wanted you to. The reason I'm saying,
I don't know. I wouldn't call them good by what I do now.
Well,
I mean, they're good enough to, and that's just honest. I mean, most of them are shitty. There's always going to be that diamond in the rough that just produces amazing stuff wherever they're at with whatever they got.
Yeah.
But that's also where fine line black and gray tattooing originated from, was Chicano prisoners in California.
Okay.
Before then, it was, traditional. So.
Gotcha.
So when you went down to Gulf Shores and made a decent living there at a shop, how long before you got back up here?
So the funny thing about that was while I was down there, I met a girl and started dating her. And she was from a wealthy family. And you're talking about oil and water.
Hey, we got a couple of those, right?
Yeah.
Well, my wife Kelsey now, she's from an okay family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we kid her. But this was to the extreme. And so she kept comparing me to her dad, right? Who was the breadwinner. And so it got to the point where, Gulf Shores in Pensacola, Florida is like 15 minutes away.
Yeah, it's right there together.
And so, just trying to keep up, like just the nagging and the things like that, and, as a dude, you're supposed to be the provider. And, if your partner's not satisfied,
Yeah.
genuinely we tried to make, happy life, happy wife type deal,
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
I ended up working for almost a year, 7 days straight every week in 2 different shops in 2 different states. And no matter what I did and how much money I made, it was still never enough. And you're talking $100,000 a year,
Yeah.
and that's, 10 years ago almost.
Yeah.
You can't live with somebody though that's always.
Yeah. I learned
You
that.
can't do it.
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
boy,
one
do
day
you have to learn it.
one day we woke up and she says, "Hey, here's how it's going to be. You're going to choose me or tattooing." And so that was the day I packed my stuff, went to the shop, packed my stuff, and I came back to the Birmingham Coleman area, and then just started working in Birmingham again. Which that was a pretty good weird feeling, because when I left Birmingham, I really didn't have the respect of other tattooers. I was just John that tattooed in the hood,
Yeah.
Hood tattooer. And while I was down there, I actually got to work around some of the best tattooers I've ever worked with still. And I still, I felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
And I still feel like that every day. No matter how many people are like, "Man, your tattoos are good," or whatever. I'm like, man, eventually they're going to figure out I'm full of shit. You know what I mean?
Dude, you were in such good company. It is not.
Yeah, I worked with a guy. He was a 75-time award-winning black and gray artist.
Wow.
Realism. And this was back in the day when conventions were invite only, and you had to have a name for yourself. And he won at some of the most prestigious conventions, that you could attend. And then there was a 3rd-generation tattooer that worked in the same shop. His grandfather, I believe, opened the very first shop in Pensacola, Florida for the Navy. And so he grew up in a tattoo family. And then there was a couple other really good tattooers that were had a good lineage, I guess you could say. Their pedigree of who taught who down to them was like a who's who. And then there was just some asshole from Alabama, me. You know what I mean? But
Who the fuck is this guy?
yeah, so I got to work around all those dudes. Like I said, I got to a shop and it was a little better, and I would pick up a little bit, and so essentially, man, I'm one of those self-taught tattooers. I never had a traditional apprenticeship.
Wow. That's awesome.
And when I got back, these same people that I didn't get respect from my peers, were asking me to come work there. I remember one person saying, "Look, man, we'll make a spot for you. We don't have any, but we don't want you, working for the competition." And at that point, I got really good at cover-ups, and so my thing then was anytime I got to cover up somebody's tattoo that had talked shit back in the day, I would.
I love it.
And so
I love it.
and that's kind of what I specialize in today now is cover-ups. I do more cover-up work than I do first-time tattoo.
Which I'm going to say, I don't know a whole lot about tattooing, but I know a whole lot about art. I know a whole lot about painting. That in itself is an art.
Covering up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different beast than fresh skin. So I had offers to go other places, but my grandmother, she had moved to Coleman from California, and she had did that. She had moved here when I actually was incarcerated. She moved down here to be closer, and so she kind of raised me. So she's like my mom, and she was getting sick, and so I decided to move closer to be around her. And I would drive from Coleman to Birmingham to tattoo, and it's not to diss any other shops that are around there.
Yeah.
I kind of genuinely don't talk bad about people who are in the same industry that I'm in, publicly anyway.
Yeah. Never on a platform.
I'll just say that you're only as good as where you work.
Yes, sir.
Your reputation.
Yes, sir.
And I came too far to work there.
Yeah.
So that's why I just drove to Birmingham from Coleman. And then while I was there, I got to do some guest artist spots, and went down to South Florida and got to tattoo with a guy that had been tattooing for 42 years, and he kind of hit me to the game and stuff. And came back, and I met a girl, Misty, and we got married. My grandmother, she passed, and she left me the property, and so we moved in there, and it was paid for. The only thing I had to do is pay for taxes and stuff like that. And I'd set a goal for myself that I would open my own shop when I was 40. I was done working for other people. And just one day out of the blue, Misty was like, "Hey, what would you do if I had $10,000 to spare? Told you had $10,000 spare." I said, "I'd probably go ahead and open my shop." And so I leased a building. It took me six months to get it to where it is. And you talk about how it looks. We bought all the lumber rough cut and hand sanded and hand stained, and we built that out. Misty and my brother, and so it was all handmade as well. I wanted my shop to reflect, the same thing about, my tattooing, like the attention to detail, like craftsmanship. These are things that I instill in people that work for me. And so we did that, and we got opened in October of 18, and been there ever since.
And dude, I tell you, like it's Dodge City Tattoo. I don't think we've actually clarified that yet during the recording. And you got a good location. It's right there off the interstate, right off of 299.
Yeah. I mean, everybody thought I was crazy for opening there. They didn't think I was going to make money. But honestly, when I first opened that place, I only had the one suite. Now we got the double suite now because I had to expand. But I was done working for people. Like, I was tired of working like big busy shops. You know what I mean? I was going to just do my appointments and a few walk-ins. I built the shop out so it was just big enough for me and one other person at the time. And I got that person, and then it was literally within 3 months there was a 6 to 8 month waiting list to get tattooed.
Wow, man.
And so the suite next to me came open, and we had to expand. I had an apprentice, and she was about ready to start tattooing, so I needed the space, and we're still booked out on average a few months in advance. And I just hired 2 walk-in artists a little over a year ago. One's from Tampa and one's from here, but she moved back from Iowa and came to work there. And
you said you're 45?
Yeah.
So I don't want to miss this. because it's partly what this show is about. He started out as a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Grew up in chaos, like just, dysfunction.
Yep.
Far away. Mm-hmm. You've had a hell of a life, and I'm sure that's only like this much of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, we ain't
Of
even
the
got to
story.
the other stuff.
Yeah. And then at 45 years old, I know that I'll be 40 in January. And a lot of times I look at it and I go, I should be further in life than what I am. I should be further
Yeah,
along.
I feel like that all the
Or it
time.
shouldn't have took me as long to get to where I'm at. And then when I finally realized that, I'm like, but you're not where you should be. I think there's a certain thing that we lose in our society, and we lose in our journeys, and we lose in our walks as we go through things. We're at a as big of a visionary as we can be. We still have like those horse blinders, and we look at it, and go, this is what I have. This is what I have. But I want people to understand like the full scope of what we're talking about. You're very much like me in a sense of, I shouldn't be, if I was going to be anywhere, I wouldn't be where I'm at. Society and statistically, you shouldn't be the guy who owns a successful tattoo shop that's booked out forever.
Right.
Based on the foundation that was laid for you. Mm-hmm. And then the things through years. But you found something that you claim that, it saved your life.
Yeah.
Tattooing saved my life, and it changed the trajectory of where you were at.
Yeah, well, one of the things people, they still, they're amazed by, like, I don't drink, I don't smoke weed. You know what I mean? Even though I probably should.
Dude, me and you both, man. Me and you both.
And I don't drink because, my dad was an alcoholic and he used to beat the shit out of me. He was also schizophrenic. And so, like, some of my memories of him, my early memories, and one of the reasons my mom and I don't have a good relationship was he would beat me. And when I say beat, I'm not talking about
just a bad belt.
This was beating us.
Yeah.
He held a hot toaster to my little brother's hand to burn it. He locked us in a closet and set the house on fire.
Jeez.
And this was when I was 3 and 4 years old. And in most of those instances, I remember seeing my mom in the background not doing shit.
Yeah.
And as a 3 or 4 year old, I've wrestled with it back and forth. As a 3 or 4 year old, you don't comprehend that she's scared to say anything.
Yeah.
Because she was getting her ass whooped too.
Yeah.
But as a grown man, and with somebody with kids, and again, I'm not a mom, so I don't know how moms think, but I don't think I could stand there and watch my kid go through that, no matter what my consequences were.
Right.
So, like, we're civil, but it's more like a sibling thing. And so, I've never ridden a motorcycle. Didn't even know why. Subconsciously, it was because I associated with him. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's probably why I don't drink or hang out or any of that shit. You know? But
it's so crazy. I got to touch on that. It's so
ahead.
crazy, dude. People, they will genuinely look at people and they go, "Oh, that's what they do."
Yeah.
You are the drinker. You are the weed smoker. You are the Harley guy.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
I just think that, yeah.
Everybody
But-
tells me that all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, you was talking about the Navy earlier. My son's in the Navy. There was a point where his mom had her own problems. I got her pregnant when I was 17. You know what I mean? And so, then I was arrested 2 weeks before he was born. So I didn't even get to hold my son until he was 8. Well, not hold him, but
Yeah.
he didn't even stay under the same roof with me until he was 8 and a half, almost 9. When I got out, he was all like, his stepdad was kind of a wannabe. He was a wannabe rapper, just whatever. And my son had picked up on that, and I had to tell him. He's talking about how gangster he was and stuff, and I was like, son, all the real gangsters are either dead or where I just came from.
Yeah.
I've never sugarcoated anything, with my kids, and so he has never. He just turned 27. He has never tried a sip of alcohol, drugs, smoked. He was straight edge. He did ROTC his whole time in high school. And then went straight into the Navy. He's an IT for the Navy, and
That's
awesome.
man.
He pretty much encrypts missiles and does cybersecurity and shit.
Yeah.
Just got a job offer to go to the White House for IT, and he turned it down, even though I disagreed with him and said he should probably go. But
Yeah, for sure.
it's not what I want; it's what he wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm still proud of him, whatever he does.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Oh yeah.
But you know, people have this misconception by the way I look and my history, and then they see somebody like my son Damien, and they're like, "But you're the fucking tattoo guy. How?"
Right.
I mean, just because I have tattoos and I've lived this life doesn't mean I don't have fucking morals and values.
Right.
Exactly,
And
man.
how to
Exactly.
instill these things. You know what I mean? And
And there's always going to be somebody that's going to be in that position that's going to think that they know better than those people around you.
Without knowing your situation,
Right, without knowing
your
that-
history. Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, and I think it's so easy for people to look, and it's so easy in a society just to write it off. You know, to go, this dude is a terrible parent. Look at him. He couldn't even put his life together. I know that's how I've been looked at a lot. And it's just not simply the truth, man. You said something earlier that I love so much, is like the person that you were making yourself become, that wasn't who you were.
Right.
But it was because of the circumstances
Yeah.
and the situations around. And let's face it, when we were younger, the attention that we were getting, because we never got the attention that we needed when we were younger,
Right.
or that we felt like we need. Hey, we got this. I like this. But that wasn't your core person.
no,
You know, just as much as it's not now.
birds of a feather flock together, I guess. So when you're an outcast, you hang with fucking outcasts.
Yep.
You know what I mean? A lot of mine was, project kids. I remember going to school and they were like, those are the fucking project kids. They're poor, blah, blah, blah. And we whooped that ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that was the answer for everything in my generation of coming up. I came up on fucking suicidal tendencies and
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and hardcore gangster shit. You know what I mean? And it was like, that was the epitome of what a man was supposed to be.
Yeah.
You whoop that ass.
Yeah.
And that's how I was kind of brought up, don't start shit, but don't take shit.
Yeah.
But the way I parented them and my philosophy on it is this, and it's not that I did anything special. It's mostly my son. They have to be willing to listen.
Yeah.
So I can, like my daughter, I fucking scream at the top of my lungs. She won't listen for shit. You know what I mean? My son, he was the complete opposite. We had a discussion one time, and I had asked him why he never tried these things. Because I remember joking. I was like, because I've drank when I was a teenager. I'd drink all the time.
Yeah.
Drink and fight, smoke weed every day. But I asked him why, and he was like, when I told you his mom, kind of had her problems, and the stepdad, and both of them are doing great now. I got nothing but good to say about both of them. But he had told me, he's like, I knew you would kill me, and I saw what it did to my mom and Jeff, which was,
Yeah.
stepdad. He didn't want to be that way. But the way I parent is I'm very loose with what they can watch and stuff and listen to, and as long as they don't act like that. This is just entertainment. I'd tell them straight up, your favorite rapper that's rapping about selling dope and robbing people lives in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not doing none of that. He's walking around with security guards.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, it's the casino theory. You don't go to the casino to win.
Right.
You go as entertainment. I'm going to pay them $100 for entertainment.
entertainment.
That's what you're going to do.
But what I did was, and I told him this, and it was, if you and I are walking in the woods, and I tell you I've been here before, and it splits off into two paths, and I'm like, he's like, hey, let's go down this way because it's shorter, and I'm like, look, man, I've taken that path before. It's real fucking jagged and full of snakes and thorns.
Yeah.
It may take us a little longer to go around this way, but it's the best option.
Yeah.
Well, which one are you going to fucking do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way I explained it to him. I was like, I've been down that road, and I'm telling you, that's not where you want to go. And he picked up on that analogy, and he listened, And so,
Yeah, I have to do that with Dave, and I have to get to a point to where I guide her the best that I can. But ultimately, she's going to have to make that decision.
bro, girls are so fucking hard.
Oh, they are, dude.
I'd raise 500 boys before I want another
It's
girl.
so difficult, dude.
And my daughter, she's got some issues because, her mom really did her wrong too. She goes to counseling, is on depression meds. She's tried to commit suicide several times. And I love her to death, man, but she's got a full plate too. And she just don't listen, dude.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's got to do with she's intellectually disabled. So some of these complex, thought patterns and stuff she don't understand.
Yeah.
But my wife Misty and I, we tried to. Well, to give you an example, she came to me when she was 14. Didn't know how to tie her shoes. Didn't know how to button pants. Didn't know how to brush her hair properly, and it was because her mom had her doped up on ADHD medicine because she likes to talk. It was like, this will quiet you up. And instead of teaching her to tie shoes, she bought slip-ons. Instead of teaching her to button pants, she bought pull-ups and stretchy pants. And I got to visit her, every other weekend and stuff like that. And then moving down to the Gulf Shores area, I didn't get to do that a lot. And she would come down there in the summer, and again, hindsight, she would come down there in flip-flops and just comfortable shorts. I'm like, well, she's at the beach,
right?
Relax, don't worry. But hindsight's like, wow, she never came to my house with anything other than pull-ons, and you know what I mean. But it's weekend, stuff like that. So that makes you feel like a shit as a parent that you don't pick up on things like that when you do. But
yeah, dude,
it is what it is.
This is for those parents that are out there that maybe just not realizing that or seeing that, dude. We got a full plate too. And somebody told me a long time ago, we don't realize that when we're kids, we were watching our parents grow up, as we're growing up. It's the same thing. I mean, I have to go back and apologize routinely for the way that I've handled situations to go, look, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm not the same person I was yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I've ate a lot of shit with my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Damien, I've had to apologize to him. Maya. I mean, one of the hardest things, and I guess get to that, was right before COVID, I was telling you about Misty helped me with a thing, and she was an addict, former addict or recovering addict, however you say it. When I met her, she had about 5 years clean, and then we were together for 6 years, and she helped me open the shop. If I had to give anybody credit for where I'm at now, it'd be her. Because I didn't even know how to establish credit. She did that for me so I could open the shop, and she pushed me to do the things that I wanted to do. After my grandmother died, I didn't even know it, dude, but I was depressed. And then, things started falling apart for her and I, and then she had her own issues came up, and she relapsed. And I just told her, look, you're going down a road that I can't follow you. You know what I mean? And we split up. I put her out. And then, 6 months later, she had committed suicide. And so, within that time is when Maya came to live with me. And so, at this point, we had the COVID shutdowns. Wife number 2 has passed away. And then I find myself being a single dad of a teenage girl with special needs.
Hey.
While trying to run a business.
Yeah, boy.
So all that happens, and when I talk about being depressed when my grandmother died, it really was nothing compared to. And let me back up. The year before she passed, so my grandmother passes away. The next year, my baby brother gets murdered. He is the guy that you may have heard on the news was found stuffed in the barrel over in Blount County. And then the year after that, my wife commits suicide. And so I just snapped, dude. Didn't even realize it snapped because, growing up the way I grew up and being in prison, it's survival. You know what I mean? You put your emotions in your back pocket and you do what you got to do. You don't show emotion in prison. And so I'd been so used to that my whole life, you know, especially, you know, with my dad, even at a young age, you know, shut up crying, we'll give you some more, you know, that type shit that you learn not to show your emotion.
Yeah.
I can talk about them all day long. And so it got to the point, man, where Maya would do something stupid, man, like not take the trash out. Something that all of us do, man. Teenage kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Mundane. And I would snap on her like I caught her with a boy.
Yeah.
Like go off in a rage.
Yep.
And I've always been somebody who's like, and I guess again, going back to incarceration, all you got to do is time to think. I learned how to reflect there on my life and why I do the things I do or don't do the things I do. And so I remember laying in bed after that day and being like, man, why did I snap on her? You know, just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Like why I overreacted so bad.
Yeah, man.
But at that point in my life, and it's cliche because you see people saying it all the time, it's like, man, I'm just mad that I woke up. You know, bro, that was 100% true.
Yeah.
I remember waking up and cussing myself out in the mirror, literally cussing myself out in the mirror that I was mad that I did not die in my sleep. And just like literally, Maya didn't deserve the way I was treating her at all. And it wasn't treating her bad, it's just if she messed up.
Yeah.
It was just full on.
Yeah.
You know, the reaction definitely was not called for whatever. You know, you didn't take the trash out, you didn't walk the dogs, whatever.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and trying to figure out why I'm snapping because I'd have told you I'd ate shit with her a bunch. I'd have to apologize. And I realized that I resented my daughter and was upset because as long as she was alive, I couldn't kill myself because she had nobody else.
Wow.
And so I remember it's like, it's time for me to go to fucking therapy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went, started going there and went to the doctor and, you know, again, you know, told him my story. And this is the weirdest thing, dude, was that I didn't realize people didn't have it that bad. Because he literally sat there and told me, he's like, look, man, I'm just going to be honest with you. You know, from the false, you know, going to prison for something you didn't fucking do. You know, the child abuse and street life and, you know, your grandmother passing away. You know, that was like your mom. And then, you know, your wife passing, then your brother being murdered, and then your next wife fucking committing suicide. And then, you know, the COVID stuff, you know, being a business owner and being told we couldn't make a living. Shit like that. And they were like, he was like, usually I see people have one of those.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Like
That's what I was thinking.
He was like, most people never experience anything.
Yes,
He's
sir.
like, when they come in this office, one of those, and they're fucked for life.
Yep.
He's like, I have to counsel for life. He's like, you've had a series of events, one after another, after another, after another.
Yeah.
And he's like, you've taken the abnormal. I remember him saying this because it was like weird. He's like, you've taken the abnormal and made it normal, which is in itself abnormal.
Abnormal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remix the remix.
And so my response to him was, I fucking thought everybody went through shit like this.
Yes, sir.
I've never lived another life to compare this one to. This is the only one I've lived, so this is the only thing I've got as reference of how life is. And so, that's how I started out on therapy. And, they gave me medicine for depression that I started taking, which was another weird thing. It was like some kind of, it was like a dopamine blocker or something, right? And this still baffles me. I think this is amazing. Is that you can put your hand on a stove and it's gonna fucking burn you. and you're going to look at it, the reaction, the physical reaction to you physically doing something. So what he had told me was, due to all these events, has blown a hole in my brain to where my dopamine levels, where they're supposed to be, just seep out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave me a blocker to stop the receptors so that those could raise up. And as soon as I did it, dude, I didn't feel mad that I didn't wake up again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or didn't die in my sleep and shit. It was
Yeah.
like night and day. And, but it amazes me that you can be physically damaged by an experience.
Yeah.
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 I don't comprehend that still.
Yeah.
I'm still, I wrestle my head around that. Like, how did this blow a hole in my brain and nothing touched me? Because I know if I punch myself,
Yep.
that's a physical thing.
Yeah.
There's
Let
going
me-
to be a result.
Let me tell you something. I have not been through anything that could even compare to what you have. You know, I've had some ups and downs in life and some stuff, but I mean, I grew up very sheltered, you know, with parents that love me, you know, middle class. But I can relate to the part where you talked about the therapy and the medication, because see, some people go through stuff like you did, and it causes those kinds of things in your brain. And then some people just have chemical imbalances, and even though their life hasn't been that hard, and that's where I am. And so I'm on year 25 now, dependent on, but I'm not embarrassed by it, and I'm thankful that it exists. But I'm dependent on antidepressant medication, and I didn't have the stuff like you. Like, it's amazing to me that you made it to go to therapy. You know, because
Yeah, that's what lots of people say. And again, it's just like,
And I'm
this is the only life I got. So
I'm
I
gonna tell you
don't
something.
understand it.
that it's only been in the last few years, dude, that I've begun to understand it's on the same level of you. I'm not going to go into my story, but I had that same revelation of, what the fuck you mean? Not everybody does this?
Right.
You know, like, this is stupid, and I realize it's stupid, but until I was like 25 years old, French toast to me was loaf bread with butter and
Yeah,
salt and cinnamon on it.
It's not.
It's not. Right? Yeah. You know, and I remember eating French toast for the first time, and somebody gave it to me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, it's French toast. I was like, no, dude, it's got eggs on it. You know, like, but it's the same philosophy with life. Like, I look back, because I had to do a lot of therapy, you know, and antidepressants and stuff. And matter of fact, I got to get a re-up on my antidepressants. But I look back and I go, what do you mean? You didn't have all this fucking chaos?
Right.
You didn't have all this stuff to go through? And
Right.
it does. It molds something in there, dude.
Yeah. Like I said, it's the only life I had to, as a fucking reference point.
Because believe me, I would have lived another one if I could have.
Well, I do remember there's certain points, again, hindsight, like when I got down to Gulf Shores. I don't know if you've ever been to a city out there called Fairhope.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a very arts-driven city. I love that place. You know what I mean? I couldn't afford to live there, and I feel out of place when I go in there.
Yeah.
But I do like to go down there and check it out. And me and my son Damien was riding around there, and there was folks out in the fucking park by the bay walking their dogs and throwing frisbee and playing with their kids and shit. And me and him was looking at this. It was like, fuck, man, this just ain't on TV. This is fucking people do this shit for real. You know what I mean? Like, we genuinely thought that was just fucking made up for TV, that fucking folks didn't live like that in real life. I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We do that going through little 5 Points in Atlanta, because it's the same thing. People out there in the dog park and people out with their little picnic blankets and the, you know, like, holy shit, this is real life.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, I'm learning a lot of things that I didn't think was a real thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, we didn't even have hamburger and hot dog buns when I was coming up. It was like white bread.
White bread.
You know what
Yes,
I mean?
sir.
So it's hard for me to empathize and sympathize with people.
Sure.
Because and I'm been better with that over the last few years, and trying to think about it, it's like it's hard for me to be like comforting, because in the back of my mind it's always like, you don't even know.
That's something I've suffered from, and it's only really, if I'm open and transparent and honest with you guys, in the last 6 to 8 months, especially when it comes to Hayden is the love of my life and the greatest blessing that I've ever had, but I've not been real empathetic because I wasn't allowed to be, all my life. And I was desensitized.
You talked about earlier about the picture with me and the baby and how you started over. He'll be 2 on the 13th of October. That's my 3rd kid.
He is your kid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was born when I think I'm 40. Well, he was born on October 13th, and I turned 44 on the 27th. So
yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, he's great, man. Neshoba, that's his name. His mom, she's Choctaw.
So that's the tattoo.
Yeah, that's my son's name.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I've been sitting here this whole time trying not to stare, trying to figure it out, man. I've been trying to figure it out. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's his name. Apparently in Choctaw it means wolf, and that's what she's Choctaw, and we wanted to honor that with her.
That's really cool.
And so that was his name. And fuck, dude, I was just like, fuck it. I'm in the game now. I'm not going to be looking for a fucking corporate job. Might as well.
Yeah.
You made it this far, right?
So I got it tattooed on my head.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny to me because I got my sons. I got Sam Finger, and he's my grown son. And it's that big because I thought he was the only one I was going to have, And then I got Oscar and Oliver. But it's so funny to me because this one, because it's so visible, all the time, at least once a week, somebody says, "Oh, is your name Oscar?" And I was thinking, if it was, would I put my own name right here?
Here I am. I don't have any of my kids' names. I'm a terrible parent.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, my little grandson, I'm gonna get his name. I'm gonna get his name on here too. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he won't be my only grandkid I ever have, but I'm gonna get his name on here. It's been a long time for me too. It's been long enough since I've gotten tattoos that now I'm at that point where I think, oh man, it's probably gonna hurt.
I think you tattooed
for
me
years. I didn't think that,
January, I think it was. January, February, something like that. That was the first time I'd been tattooed in 13 years.
Dude, fucking tattoos suck. I remember.
Yeah, they do.
I remember when I was younger, I was just like, I could sit there all day.
Yeah, same with me, man.
And when I was getting my back worked on, the artists and everybody was laughing around me because I was like, man, I was just like, this fucking sucks. Why in the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
This is the stupidest shit ever.
I noticed this time around the healing aspect of it. I was in a lot more pain than I remember being. On into it, on the leg.
Well, look, that's my most painful tattoo, is the inside of the calf.
Yeah.
By far.
This was like 2 weeks in.
Yes.
I'd get out of the bed and I'm like, oh my God, dude.
When I got the inside of my calf tattooed, like my leg swole so much. And it hurt so bad. And I was like, there's no fucking way a tattoo's supposed to hurt this bad.
That's exactly what I said,
like,
man.
He did something wrong. You know what I mean? And so, just talking to people who had it inside their calf, they're like, dude,
I told Hayden
that separates the men from the boys.
I got up one morning and I fell against the wall in the bedroom.
Yeah, you can't put weight on it or
nothing. And I told her, I said, I do not remember tattoos hurting this bad.
Okay, so this one on the outside, right?
Nothing. That's gravy.
Well, what happened with me, I had all this stuff done, and I had a couple that hurt a little bit, but it wasn't that big of a deal, because I got almost all mine within like a 2-year period, right? But the guy that was doing this one, it was hurting so bad, and I kept saying, dude, this hurts so bad. And he kept saying, man, why are you being such a pussy? You got all those tattoos already. About 3 weeks later, I see him, and he goes, oh, hey, man, my bad. I found out I was using the wrong this and that. And that. I was like, yeah, man, it felt like you had a hammer and a chisel. I had all this other stuff. That hurt so bad. He's like, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I mean, that comes with just experience of tattooing.
Yeah.
Younger tattooers, especially if they're not apprenticed right, and fuck, I know I did, is you cause unnecessary pain. Like, they're going to hurt, but, as you learn what you're doing, you learn how to mitigate the pain, and not cause unnecessary pain. So,
most everything I've had wasn't bad at all, and I think it was because the people that did them, knew what they were doing.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, the elbows, that was my worst of everything. Yeah. I swear I felt it in my jaw.
Well, when my elbows faded, I did not get them touched up. So
three times.
I hear you.
It's been 3 times. This has been done 4 times, and that's it. So I got a question for you. We have 3 questions at the end of the show for every guest.
Okay.
But I got a 4th for you.
All right.
And I want to throw that one in first. Most ridiculous request you've ever received as a tattoo artist?
I once tattooed the letter J on a 70-year-old woman's vagina.
That, holy shit. Did she have a reason? Did she have a reason?
Yeah, dude, it's a great story. So it was about the time Viagra was hitting real hard,
Yeah.
and I didn't, no pun intended.
I mean, if she's 70 years old, maybe she was happy about that, right?
So she left her husband of 40 plus years for this other guy, and his name started with a J, and so she wanted to get something for him and got it done. And this was in Gulf Shores at the fucking beach, and so I was like, okay, $100, and she's like, $100. It was like an inch long. I'm like, dude, you want me to play in your vagina? It's going to be $100. You know what I mean? And so she paid it, and here's the surprising thing. You would think that it looked like a fucking Arby's roast beef sandwich. That shit was pristine and shaved and everything, dude.
Oh my gosh, man.
I'm like, fuck, good job. You know what I mean? So she gets the tattoo and then, pays and then leaves. And then 20 minutes later, she busts through the shop door crying, asking me to get rid of it. And I'm like, baby, it don't work like that. She's never had a tattoo. Apparently, she called this dude and told him what she had done for him. And this is senior citizens, right?
Hey,
He thought it was fucking trashy and told her that she was trash and didn't want anything to do with her anymore because she got that tattoo.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Wow. And you can't go back to your husband of 40-something years.
No, you
not
gotta
after Jay.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you cover up the J? Is it like a little flower name?
Yes. Well, the good thing is, I mean, she probably didn't have it long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, I know that's bad.
And
Well,
this
it's
is
not
just
a
as bad to say,
lifetime
but
mistake,
it sounds like a place where you could just,
Grow
not
your hair back.
shave there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Well,
know. She Viagra, but, how many people's actually going to see it? You know?
Well, I got to tell you, man, vagina or not, there's a certain level of professionalism at your shop that I don't think I've ever really seen before, and I truly enjoyed my time there.
While I don't talk shit about other tattoo shops in my area, like, I don't go and claim to be the best.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you do. You get an
Yeah,
experience.
it's a professional thing. It's, doctors and lawyers, it's the way they are too. You don't, you're just trying to tell people what you'll do for them, not compare your services to others. That's, you're going to do your best and a great job. And if they want something great, come see you.
Yep. So
Simple
you're
as
all,
that.
Yeah, we just let our work and our reputation speak
Yeah.
for itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have
well, that's how I found you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. People seem to like us. We won best of the best from 2 or 3. Like, fuck, I mean, I don't even know how many awards we've won from around there. Like, I forget that we even do them. But
Awesome.
we go to tattoo conventions and we got a few awards and stuff like that. But I mean, you hardly ever see us posting them online or anything like that. At the same time, man, like I also subscribe to the notion that you can have the biggest dick in the world and nobody's going to know it if you don't pull it out.
Yeah.
So
Tombstone message.
I try to be humble.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay humble.
Yeah.
And then try to put your stuff out there without bragging about what you can do.
It's a fine line, though, dude. It's a balance.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I think you do it really well from me to you. Just FYI.
I try. And I'm not successful because this was what I dreamed of doing. Like I said, I didn't even know I could make money doing this. I fell in love with it. And like, you're talking about it saved my life and gave me a life and my kids a life that I never had. But spite is a great motivator.
Ain't it, though?
Yeah, when you got everybody telling you you're not going to amount to shit, you're not going to do nothing.
And you're off exit 299, right?
Yeah.
Exit 299, Dodge City, I-65.
Yep.
Headed down. That's where you can find him. Would you say Dodge City Tattoo?
Dodge City Tattoo Company.
Yeah, but Coleman, what was the slogan?
It's Coleman's Quality Tattoo Experience.
I like that, man. And that brings us to the end of the episode with John. I got to tell you something, man. I love hearing people's stories. I also love finding out that I'm not alone in life. And that's the purpose of having people on this show, man. So they have an opportunity to connect with people that they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to talk to. So if you're listening to this and you found some kind of hope in it and understanding that, hey, just because we're dealt a shitty hand in life, that does not define who we are. We do have the ability to make something different. We have the ability to become a different and better version of ourselves. Man, that's really all that matters. So as you walk through your day-to-day, remember to always be real, be you, and be salt. Go out there and love somebody. But before you do that, remember to love yourself. Jeremy Braswell and Bishop Black.
Yes, I lay here in my deathbed and my journey's to a close. I need the comfort of my kin to light my way. Don't fret for my soul, please, 'cause I found my inner peace. Won't you join me as I tarry on